not know your name. When you answer to questions that will not give away who you are, we will do so in open session, which means that the public can hear what is being said in the courtroom. When you are asked to describe anything that relates specifically to you, or you are asked to mention facts that might reveal your identity, we will do this in private session. In private session, there is no broadcast, and no one outside the courtroom can hear your answer. If ever anything gets said during a public session, which should have been said in private session, we will do our best to protect this information. Your testimony will be broadcast on a daily basis, so we can remove any such remarks from the public broadcast. The prosecution has also prepared a list so that you can safely make reference to information which might identify you. The prosecution will explain this to you when it begins its questioning. Mr. Witness, you have also been assigned a lawyer to provide you with legal advice about possible self-incrimination. The chamber gives you the assurance that your testimony will not be used against you in any subsequent proceedings before this court. This applies as long as you do not commit any offense or misconduct when testifying, such as by intentionally giving testimony which is false or lying to the chamber. If any question is asked that could lead to your self-incrimination, we will hear your answer in private session and keep this answer confidential. Mr. Witness, do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor, I understand.
Okay. And lastly, I also have a few practical matters you should have in mind when giving your testimony. Everything we say here in the courtroom is written down and interpreted. It is therefore important to speak clearly and at a slow pace. Please speak into the microphones and only start speaking when the person asking you the question has finished. To allow for the interpretation, everyone has to wait a few seconds before starting to speak. If you have any questions yourself, raise your hand so we can know that you wish to say something. Have you understood all of that, Mr. Witness?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. We will then start your testimony. Mr. Steinberg, your witness.
I'm very grateful, Your Honor. Mr. Witness, can I please confirm that you have before you the protected information list? It should be on the table in front of you.
Yes, Your Honor, I have it.
And can I also confirm that you have a list of materials that were dealt with during the witness preparation session? You should see the yellow highlights on the first page.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Little bear with me, please. All right. If I can ask you to please, Mr. Witness, bearing in mind we are in open session, to turn to the last page of the protected information list. It's page 5, and it's entitled CV/Personal Information. Please let me know when you have it. And can you take a moment to have a look through the contents of this page? And when you are done, if you can confirm that this information was discussed with you at the witness preparation session over the last week, and whether you confirm this information under oath today.
I do confirm.
Thank you very much, Mr. Witness. By way of introduction, Mr. Witness, is it correct that you were a prosecution witness in the Ruto and Sang case?
Yes, My Honor.
And is it also correct that you provided witness statements in that case to prosecution investigators concerning post-election violence and, in particular, various planning meetings allegedly attended by Mr. William Samoei Ruto?
Yes, My Honor.
And besides the statements you made in the main case about the post-election violence, did you provide any other witness statements to the prosecution?
Repeat your question.
Besides the witness statements you made that concerned the subject of the post-election violence, did you make any other witness statements concerning other subjects?
Yes, My Honor.
And, sorry, briefly for the record, what did those concern? What was the subject matter of the other statements?
It was about witness bribery.
Witness bribery. Thank you. And finally, do you confirm that you testified before Trial Chamber 5 in the Ruto and Sang case?
Yes, My Honor.
Mr. Witness, I can inform you that the Chamber has ruled that in order to make these proceedings more efficient, the prosecution may submit into evidence your previously recorded evidence, including the witness statements I've just referred to. Do you understand?
Yes, My Honor.
However, this is contingent, this is dependent on the fact that you do not object to the handing in of these statements. Do you understand?
Yes, I understand.
This means that I can ask you, or I can focus my questions on only those issues that I consider most relevant to lead your evidence in open court, and I do not have to ask you questions on all the details of all your statements. Do you understand?
Yes, My Honor.
However, the defense lawyer and possibly the judge may question you on any of the information you provided and any other relevant subjects, even if I don't ask you. Is that clear?
Yes, it's clear.
All right. I'd like to ask you to confirm whether you've had an opportunity to review all of your prior recorded statements over the course of the past week.
I confirm.
And besides the statements that you provided the prosecution, did you also have an opportunity to review the evidence you provided before Trial Chamber 5 in the Ruto and Sang case?
Yes, My Honor.
All right. I'd like you to have a look at the list of documents in front of you. Do you recognize this document?
Yes, I do.
Your Honor, for the record, this should be in the front of the first binder that the court officer has placed on your desk. Binder number 1. And it should be immediately recognizable by the yellow highlights on the left-hand column. Thank you. What is this document, Mr. Witness?
I have two documents before my desk.
Sorry, I'm referring to the last mentioned document, the list of documents with the yellow highlights in the left-hand column.
This is a document which contains the description of the statements I give to this court.
Okay. And do you see in the most right-hand column there are a series of ticks in the box on the right-hand side? Can you see that?
Yes, I do.
And can you tell the court who put the ticks there?
I did.
And what do these ticks signify?
The ticks signify that I have read the documents.
Can I ask you to turn to page 6 of the document? You will see the highlights in the left-hand column turn to green, and particularly item number 102. Let me know when you have that, please.
I have it.
In the second last column, there is a signature or some initials there. Can you identify that, please?
Yes,
Whose
I
is?
do.
Sorry, whose signature is that?
It's my signature.
All right. Your Honor, I can confirm that the witness signed and ticked this document during the course of the witness preparation session and provided it to us. He was actually asked to sign the document at the end, but because the session was conducted remotely, we only got it afterwards, and I see he hasn't signed it at the end. But his signature does appear at item 102. I hope that will suffice. Keeping on the page that I just directed your attention to, there are also some ticks in the second from right-hand column, and in particular items 96, 100, 104, and 106. Do you see those ticks?
Yes, I do.
And these are in the column that is entitled ERN of AV recording, if applicable. What do those ticks signify?
These ticks signify that I did listen to the recordings.
And were you able to identify the recordings that you listened to?
I did, My Honor.
And what were those recordings of?
The recordings that I recorded during my conversation.
Remembering we're in open session, so if you're going to mention a name, please do so with reference to the number on the protected information list.
Yes, My Honor. It's my recording to the people that I recorded during my conversation with them.
And do you see the names of any of these people on the list, starting at page 3 under the title Persons, and going over to page 4?
I did record my conversation with person number 2, person number 4, person number 16,
Thank you. Are you finished?
Yes, My Honor.
All right. And were you also asked to compare these recordings with the transcripts in the corresponding columns of the items I've mentioned and all the other items where you've ticked the audio-visual recordings?
Yes, My Honor.
And what did you find?
That the recordings were well translated in words.
All right. Be careful with the word translation. I'm referring now to the transcript in the original languages, so Swahili or Kalenjin or whatever the case may be. Did they correspond, or did you notice any problems there?
They corresponded.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. All right. I think you already confirmed this, but can I just draw your attention to the items that are highlighted in purple, and these run from item 84 to item 91. And these are the transcripts of your evidence in the Ruto and Sang case. You also confirmed that you read those.
Yes, I do.
Now, Mr. Witness, I'm going to ask you, do you have any objection if these listed statements, in particular the ones that are highlighted in yellow and in purple, which are your prior statements and evidence and related annexes and documents, do you have any objection if these are handed in to evidence in this case?
I have no objection, My Honor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Witness. I'll come back to the green highlighted items, the audiovisual items, in a moment. Now, can I also ask you to have a look at the penultimate, second last item on this list? In fact, it's the last item on this list. It's item 139. It's the witness preparation clarification log from the Ruto and Sang case. Can you confirm that you had an opportunity to, again, review that document?
Yes, My Honor, I did.
And can you confirm that those were clarifications that you made during the course of your witness preparation in that case with the prosecution?
Yes, My Honor.
And did you also make certain further clarifications during the course of the witness preparation in this case?
Yes, My Honor.
All right. Court will bear with me, please. Your Honor, I'm wanting to show the witness a copy of the witness clarifications in this case, but the document is not a short one. It's about 6 pages. I wonder whether it might be more efficient if I ask the witness to read this over the lunch break, and then he can confirm after the break whether he agrees with these clarifications. I think it is necessary because these were recorded by the prosecution and the witness has not yet had an opportunity to review them because it was done after the witness clarification session.
Yes, it will be good for the witness to read and understand and agree to whatever is stated therein.
Yes.
Yes, so we'll do that after the lunch break.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you. Now, Mr. Witness, subject to the clarifications that you've already confirmed in the Ruto and Sang case and the clarifications that you will have the opportunity to read during the witness preparation in this case. Do you confirm that the material that has been handed in, your prior recorded statements and your evidence, was true and accurate to the best of your knowledge and recollection, remembering that you are under oath today?
I do.
Thank you, Your Honour. Your Honour, the prosecution will formally tender for admission into the case the documents listed in this signed document. Well, in fact, I think I should probably refer to the list of materials which I have provided to the Chamber and to Council. Therein, I have indicated, the prosecution has indicated, those materials which the prosecution seeks to have formally admitted in the record of the case, which include the prior recorded testimony, the statements of the witness, but also his prior recorded testimony in the Ruto and Sang case. In this regard, however, Your Honour, I should draw the Chamber's attention to the fact that the prosecution did not formally request the admission of the prior recorded testimony in the Ruto and Sang case in its Rule 68(3) application. In fact, it stated in that application that the evidence of the witnesses in the Ruto and Sang case was largely irrelevant. While that might be correct in the case of witness 613 and the other witness who was the subject of that application, it is actually not correct in respect of this witness, who did give significant and substantial testimony on the issues relevant to this case and the Article 70 investigation in that matter. Now, the record of the testimony of all the relevant witnesses in that case has already been transferred into the record of this case, but of course that doesn't mean that it's formally submitted into evidence. So, with the leave of the court and subject to any comments my learned friend might have, the prosecution moves to also submit the prior recorded testimony of this witness in the Ruto and Sang case. If it pleases the court, I can, at an appropriate time, give more. I can give some more detail as to the relevant portions of that prior recorded testimony. I can already tell the Chamber that, insofar as the direct examination of the witnesses, the relevant portions are transcript 19 of the record in this case, at pages 38 to 85, and transcript 27, pages 2 to 36. That's the direct evidence. There may well also be relevant portions under cross-examination, but I'm afraid I don't have those references to hand at the moment, but I can get them. Your Honour, if that is acceptable to the court, I do believe that the prosecution will be in a position to wrap up the direct evidence of this witness well within the 4.5 hours and possibly even before the end of the day. I have already given my learned friends notice of the fact that it's possible that I might wrap up early, so if they are prepared to commence their cross-examination, they will be able to do so straight afterwards.
Okay. Thank you. May I ask Mr. Canavas, do you have any take on that?
I do. No objections. The entire transcript can come in, all of his testimony, direct and cross.
Thank you very much, Mr. Canavas, for your understanding. Yes, Mr.
Thank you.
Prosecutor.
I confirm the entire evidence and direct and cross. The prosecution requests that be admitted under Rule 68. Very well. Formalities then attended to. Let me move on. Now, you've mentioned that you have given statements regarding witness bribery. And the evidence already now admitted into the record details the fact that you were approached on more than one occasion with bribe offers. I'd like you to just please describe to the Chamber in your own word, remembering to refer to the protective information list whenever you're referring to a location or a person that might identify you, how and by whom you were first approached to withdraw as a prosecution witness.
My Honor, my very first approach was done by person number 2.
And how was this approach made? Was it in person, remotely, by mail? How was it made?
It was done by telephone and in person.
All right. Was the first approach in person or by telephone?
In person.
The first approach was in person. The first time you were contacted by person number 2.
I was contacted by telephone, and thereafter we met.
Thereafter you met in person.
Thereafter we met in person.
All right. And again, referring to the protective information list, where were you at the time that you were approached by telephone by person number 2?
I was in place indicated location number 6.
Thank you. Now, I'm not going to, well, sorry, let me move on to my next question. Did you tell anyone about this approach?
Yes, My Honor. I did report to the investigators of this court.
All right. And what did they ask you to do as a result of your report to them of the bribery approach?
I was asked to make sure that I record every conversation that I have with this person.
And what was your reaction to that request?
I accepted, My Honor.
And when you accepted, was any pressure put on you to accept, or was this something you did voluntarily?
I did voluntarily, My Honor.
Why did you agree to do this?
Because I did not accept to see the case that was very important for the victims of post-election violence fall like that because of bribery and intimidations to the witnesses.
Okay. Now, I'm not going to take you through the details of that offer and through the subsequent contacts you had with person number 2 by telephone, since these are recorded in detail both in your prior statements as well as in your evidence in the Ruto and Sang case. And you've also identified and described the contents of the recordings that you made with this witness. But perhaps this would be an opportune time to deal with the admission of these documents. And perhaps I can just ask you again to look at the list of material that was shown to you, the list that's ticked by you, starting with the yellow highlights on the left, and turning again to, well, to page... Unfortunately, I haven't given pages here, have I? So item number 92.
Message from...
All highlighted in green.
Message from the English booth. For the purposes of interpretation, could Council please provide all references clearly so that they may be brought up on the screen for the interpreters? Thank you.
And signify that by your ticks of the relevant items. Is that correct?
That is correct, my Honor.
Your Honour, the prosecution then will tender into evidence, submit into evidence all of these items. If I understand Your Honour's directions correctly, it's not necessary to specify this now, but we will send an email after the conclusion of the witness's evidence detailing all of these items. They are also mentioned in the list that I've provided. I presume that I've understood correctly the procedure.
Yes, that's correct. So that at the end of his testimony, we could give them evidence numbers and names. We could mark them.
Very well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honour. This is my first time with a submission regime, so I'm also learning as we go. Very well. Let me move on then. So, after the series of phone calls with person number 2 that you recorded and that we've just referred to, you've already told the court that you met in person. Was this also at location number 6?
Yes, my Honor.
And just to set the scene, can you tell the court how it came about that you met person number 2 in person at this location?
We did communicate on telephone with the person number 2 and agreed that he was going to come in person to location number 6 in order to have a meeting with me and possible other witnesses who were in the same location in order to agree on how we were going to recant all our testimonies that were before this court.
Okay. Now, just for the public record, perhaps you can also just mention to the court when the witness first contacted you, you say he offered you a bribe. What was the bribe and for what purpose? What did you have to do in return for this bribe?
If I agreed on the offer that he was giving as a bribe, I will agree to recant all the testimonies that I give before this court and not to appear in this court to give my testimony at any occasion that I was needed to appear.
All right. And just for the avoidance of doubt, the prosecution investigators were aware of everything that you were discussing with the with person number 2. Is that correct?
Yes, my honor, I did record every conversation between me and person number 2 and handed it to the investigators of this court.
All right. Now, when you eventually met with person number 2, and I hope it's on record, so perhaps I can just lead the witness as to the date, if there's no objection from my learned friend. Your statements date these meetings with the person number 2 in location number 6 on the 20th and 21st of July 2013. Would you agree with that? This is already dealt with in your statements and in your prior evidence, but for the public record. What was discussed at that first meeting with person number 2?
On this date, I tried my level best because I was doing the recording to make sure person number 2 gives me information concerning who sent him, how much he was going to offer, and what was my role that I was supposed to do, he intended me to do, and how I will eventually get